As a combat veteran, this has been an issue that means a lot to me. We have 20 to 22 veterans that take their life every single day, and if we can find a way to prevent that, we certainly need to explore those options. There are alerts that exist out there, an amber alert for when a child is missing, a silver alert if we have an elderly person that's missing. So Senator Hassan, Maggie, and I are working on a bill together. She brought the bill to me and said, what do you think about a green alert? And I said, wow, it sounds like a really great idea. So a green alert if we have a veteran that is missing.
Our job as civilians, from my perspective, is to work every day to make our country worthy of the sacrifices that our servicemen and women have made for us. And so I was approached by a special Services General, Don Bolduc, in Stratham, New Hampshire, who identified the issue for me, saying often veterans go missing, and Senator Ernst Joni and I were just talking about they'll be active on social media and then all of a sudden you don't see their presence anymore, they're just gone. And in Wisconsin, the impetus for Wisconsin's Green Alert system, they have one up and running, was a veteran named Corey Adams, who went missing and wasn't found for 18 days and was found deceased. And we want to prevent tragedies like that from happening, and we need to have a system tailored. The states need to tailor it, but what our bill would do is put together a commission so we can help states get the best practices to do this. We need a system to deploy because we know it's critical to find an at-risk veteran who's gone missing as quickly as possible.
One of the things I noticed under one of the causes of PTSD, I mean, a lot of people will think of our service members, they'll think of men. A lot of them are women. Military sexual trauma is a big issue.
Yes, and we find that our women that have served in the military, they actually have a higher incidence rate of suicide when compared to their civilian counterparts. There is such thing as military sexual trauma that in itself leads to post-traumatic stress. So women undergo different levels of issues than the men do. Because we focus so much on our men veterans, we don't oftentimes think of women as being veterans.
One of the other issues that we talk about a lot in the column is the politicization of the military. You can think back to the conventions where both parties were guilty of politicizing the military. You had retired generals, and yes, they're retired, and of course they are entitled, of course, to their First Amendment rights. But there are some former military brass who look and say, people see those guys, or women, it's mostly guys, and they identify them with the military.
Exactly.
With your military background, do you have concerns about that, and also what it means for younger people in the military in terms of putting them in a spot they're traditionally not in?
I think it is always very important that our military stay as apolitical as possible. Now, of course, when people retire, they have every right to speak out and share thoughts and experiences that are important to them. But we don't want to make our military a political football.
One of the stressors of PTSD, which links directly to the Green Alert, is if you are abroad, you are serving, you are in a combat zone, the politics of this, if a war is politicized, it can actually have a negative traumatic effect. I don't know that just general members of the population realize that.
I think if you think back to Vietnam, which was obviously became so controversial, that definitely influenced the way veterans were treated when they came home. They really weren't welcomed, and they were, in some cases, ostracized and criticized for just stepping forward and answering the call and keeping their country safe. First job of government is to keep its people safe, and the hallmark of a democracy is that our frontline warriors, as well as all of our law enforcement and first responders, act to keep us safe without ever having knowing us, right? The thing about being in a democracy is that we stand up for each other simply because and always because we're Americans. And we share the same Constitution, which is our rule book and the statement of our values. That's what we share.
I would just sum that all up is that a soldier, sailor, airman, or a Marine, they are there as part of that institution, and they will fight for us, they will protect us. They are not the ones making the decision. You know, the decision lies at the the topmost reaches of our country, whether it's the president, Congress.